Hey Nick,
Hey Liam.
what's an orthopteron's favourite sport?
I don't know. What is an orthopteron's favourite sport?
Cricket.
Let the record show silence. Oh god.
Hello lovely listeners and welcome to episode 7 of Entocast with Liam and Nick, kindly sponsored by the Royal Entomological Society. Today we're going to be talking about something that's quite close to both our hearts, which is not necessarily related to just entomology, but to science in general, and that is outreach.
Yeah, so we're talking about outreach today to what are apparently our lovely listeners. Don't think I would let that one slide. Because obviously it's something that's very close to our hearts because as we speak, we're doing outreach. This whole thing behind it is because we're interested in outreach and interested in talking to people about science and about insects specifically. So for this episode, it's a little bit different to what we've normally done, so I hope you guys enjoy it, but we're doing some live outreach, so we're having some quick interviews with members of the public about insects, and we're also talking to Fran Sconce, who's done a lot of outreach as well, about things like what is the importance of outreach, and how to get into it, and all other things about that. So first, I thought it might be interesting to hear from both of us about why we think outreach is important.
So for me, it's to do with that idea of making science for everyone. There's no point doing research and increasing our knowledge, but then not sharing that, because if you have learned something new but you share it with no one, have you really advanced what the human race knows? I'd say probably not. And I think there's all these other benefits that then come from sharing that knowledge, not just that people then know about it, but then you don't know how people might take that forward.
Yeah, I mean, if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone know about it? Or if a tree falls in the forest because of one of your insects and you record that and you don't tell anyone about it, was it really science?
Nice. So what about you, Nick? Why do you think outreach is important?
I think some of it is similar to you. Like, I fail to see the point of science if we don't talk about it. Science is just writing down unless we actually share it with the public, unless we disseminate it. We're not increasing the knowledge base of humanity unless we actually share it with people. More broadly as well, I have a soft spot for outreach because the only reason that I'm interested in science is because there has been some aspect of outreach in the first place. So when I was a child, I remember going to a lot of science museums. I remember going to different science fairs and science events and stuff, and watching science TV shows. It was that got me involved in it. And if that is something that can get more people involved in it, I think that's a great thing. And I think you can only have certain ideas when you actually interact with the public. You can only progress science in certain areas if you interact with the public. And they have almost a right to hear about the research as well, because a lot of research is funded by the government, so it's funded by taxpayers. So we're spending their money on our fancy machines and things, so they kind of have a right to know about it. And I think it makes science more accessible, because I hate to see science as a bit of a black box, which I think it is to some people.
So these ideas we explored a little bit further when we went and spoke to Fran. So we're going to head over there now through the magic of editing, as always, and see what she has to say about her work and outreach.
We're here at Harper Adams University. We've actually made it outside on a beautiful day. You can probably hear some of the birds tweeting and other little audio sounds that I may or may not cut out. And we're joined today by Fran Sconce.
Hi, Fran. So could you tell us what you do here at Harper Adams?
Hi Liam. So I'm a PhD student at Harper Adams, and my project looks at springtails. Their taxonomic name is Columella, so they're really good for soil health. And I look generally at how agricultural management affects different species of springtails. So I'm really interested in springtails because what they do in soil is they eat dead and decaying organic matter, and they help break that up and then they enable the bacteria and fungi, the much smaller things in soil, to help process that so they can speed up decomposition.
So it's super important.
I think they are, yeah, definitely.
Have you found any interesting results thus far in your research?
I've been involved in several different experiments at Harper and elsewhere in Shropshire, looking at things like different management techniques, like different tillage, so ploughing the soil, looking at how deep you might plough the soil, if you actually plough the soil or not. So when you do plough the soil, you're disrupting the soil environment where the springtails live. So I found that most of the time, springtails actually decrease in abundance and diversity when you do impact the soil. But sometimes you get some species that can cope with those situations. They can cope with intense farming, so to speak, and I find that really interesting. So the final bit of my PhD was to look at the sort of particular traits of those species to try and find out why they might cope in those situations.
Awesome. So what we're talking about today and why we're talking to you is we're quite interested in doing a show about insect outreach, and you've done quite a lot of outreach work. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've done?
So I first got involved when I was doing my Masters with Outreach. So I was based at the Silwood Park campus of Imperial College, just near London, and we ran a BioBlitz, which is where you just survey lots and lots of different habitats on a site and try and work out as many species that are there as possible. We got loads of local Berkshire naturalists involved, and we got some of the public involved. And I really enjoyed seeing the public being connected and discovering new things, just like I had done. That world is being brought to people, and then also meeting all these different natural historians who had all these different specialisms. We had someone who could work just on, I think it was a soldier fly specialist, and I learned so much from them and just meeting them. So I really wanted to do more of sort of connecting the public with insects and science in general. So during my PhD, I've got more involved with the Royal Entomological Society and National Insect Week, and I've helped behind the scenes with some of their social media.
Do you feel like doing outreach has been quite rewarding for you personally? Like, what have you gained from getting involved with these kind of things?
Yeah, I think what I find most enjoyable is that you get instant impact. And that might almost be like a really superficial thing. But if you see someone find out something new, or if they look down a microscope and see, wow, this is a springtail, this is a whole thing I'd never seen before, and there are loads of them around, and they're really important for our world. I just think seeing that reaction and seeing someone who maybe might go away and talk about it with their friends, maybe that's my dream, that someone might go and share the spirit, share the word. But yeah, I think it's just much more tangible. I think doing a PhD, I've enjoyed it, but I do often find it's very abstract. You're working away at a problem and you're getting some data, which might go wrong, might go well, who knows, and eventually you might publish something and you might share it with colleagues at a scientific conference. But the impact to me is much more tangible, it's much more real with the public. That's why I like it, I think.
And why do you think outreach is important? I
think in our world, there's so many pressures on our environment and our habitats, be it with housing, be it with growing crops, and there's so many organisms that we don't know about, and it's also really important and probably create a really crucial role in ecosystems. I think increasing public awareness, it's a kind of bottom-up effect as opposed to top-down, talking to, say, policy level, which is also really important as well. But talking to the public is a sort of bottom-up effect to try and improve the overall awareness of our environment and the importance of it. And hopefully people make better choices. Say, if they have a garden at home, they might provide habitats for different types of organisms within it. I think that's really important.
Well, you've certainly sold me on the importance of outreach. So if there was someone who was quite interested in getting involved with outreach, maybe at undergraduate level or maybe beyond, have you got any tips or pieces of advice you'd say to these people if they were thinking about getting involved?
I would say if you see an opportunity at your university, even simply an open day is a really good start, so you can learn how to talk to different types of people. But if there's any kind of activity at your university or maybe a local wildlife trust or museum, volunteer and get involved. But you can also host your own events. National Insect Week happens every 2 years, and they encourage people all around the country to host their own events. Maybe you have a moth trap, run a moth trap, gather people around to see what's in it. I think start small. There's official schemes you can also sign up to, like the STEM Ambassador scheme. I signed up to that last year. And they give you actual training for free, and they also DBS check you for free, so you can work with different types of groups on your own. So I think joining an official scheme like STEM Ambassadors is also a really good way because they provide a framework for you to work as well.
And you talked a little bit about the National Insect Week there, and you've had some involvement with that too. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
National Insect Week is a every 2-year campaign run by the Royal Entomological Society. They've run it for over 12 years, I think. And it's essentially lots of events happening all around the country, which could be a walk in a nature reserve. It could be a talk by someone in a village hall all about an amazing group of insects. It could be an art exhibition about someone who's been really inspired by insects. It could be going behind the scenes at a museum, seeing the collections. But it's all about something to do with insects and just raising public awareness about the importance of insects. So the next one will be in June 2018. So I'm hoping to be involved with that again. I was involved last year. It was really good fun.
So we were just wondering if you had perhaps a favourite insect, and if you had any cool insect stories that you thought you'd like to share with our listeners.
I don't think I have a favourite insect. I think my favourite group of insects is actually beetles. Dare I say it, even though I work on springtails. But I got to do some work behind the scenes at the Natural History Museum with some of the beetle curators there, who are amazing people, and they have the most amazing collection. And there I actually got to recreate a group of dung beetles, the giant elephant dung beetles. The genus name is Heliocopris, and they are as big as your hand, and they all have different types of horns and different types of grooves or striata on their elytra, their wing coverings. And these were fascinating. They're also quite smelly, dung beetles. And even in the collection, you can still smell the dung from when they were collected, which is amazing. And while I was doing my undergraduate course, one of the field courses we went on was to Uganda, which is the most amazing experience. And while I was there, we saw lots of incredible things. We saw chimpanzees, we saw different types of monkeys and everything. But one night, in fact 2 nights running, we got to see these Heliocopris giant dung beetles flying. And I was amazed by this. I think other people thought I was a little bit strange, unfortunately, because they were there to see the chimps and the amazing birds. But seeing this dung beetle in my hand live, and I'd been about 6 months before that curating the specimens of them in the museum, was amazing. So I think that's my main story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
It's a very good story. Wow, that was really cool to hear from Fran and like her ideas about outreach, and I particularly liked it where she talked about how to get people involved with it and what to do if you want to do that. And that links really nicely on to what we did next, which is we were at the Insect Festival in York and we did some live outreach. So let's go join our past selves now.
Hello and welcome to EntoCast, and today we are live at the Royal Entomological Society's Insect Festival. We're here in York Museum Gardens, and we're going to be talking to people all about insects, finding out what their favourite insects and if they've got any cool entomological stories.
They're not going to be difficult, are they?
They're not going to be difficult, not at all. No. We're not just like testing people on their insect knowledge.
Do you have a favourite insect?
Ants are my favourite, I think, to watch, because I could just sit and watch them for hours because they're fascinating the way.
All the social interactions.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Do you have any good ant species in your garden?
No, every so often there's one, but not many. I mean, I get a few butterflies, and I've got quite a few bees this year because I've specifically grown wildflowers. So
fantastic.
yeah, I've got a lot of bees and some hoverflies and that. So
Oh, really good. Yeah, lots of pest control then.
Yep.
What sort of plants have you grown to attract some bees?
I've got poppies, oxeye daisies, some vetch. I think what else I've got. Sweet peas, foxgloves, so a whole host of stuff.
And have you found that these have made a big difference with the bees that you're seeing in your garden?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've certainly seen more bumblebees because of it. Yeah. Which is sort of like, and I got the seeds from a local woodland trust site, so I collected them and then sort of like sowed them in the garden, and I was quite pleased with the effect, really.
Fantastic, yeah.
That's really cool. So, how do you find yourself here today? Have you got an interest in insects? What brought you here?
I really like insects and I want to be an entomologist.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. What makes you want to be an entomologist?
Well, I always find insects quite interesting, and they're my favourite animals.
Oh, me too. I see you've got an excellent t-shirt on. Can you tell us what's on your t-shirt?
It's a giant stag beetle.
Wow. Do you like those? Are they one of your favourite insects?
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about them?
The males have the big mandibles and the females only have small mandibles.
Cool. They're one of my favourite insects too. They're really impressive, aren't they? With the big males with the massive mandibles. Have you seen a stag beetle?
I've never seen one in the wild, but I have seen one last time I went to the insect festival.
Oh, great. Oh, that's really lucky. So you're interested in insects, are you?
Yeah, and animals in general, really.
Yeah. And do you have a favourite insect?
I'm not sure. It's really difficult to choose because they're just all so good. I really like bush crickets and beetles like weevils and longhorn beetles.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
So you got any interesting stories about insects?
Yeah, there was a time when I was out on like a brownfield site, like a wasteland site near where I live. Me and my friend, who's an entomologist, we found these really rare bush crickets called speckled bush crickets.
Wow.
It was the first time they'd been recorded in the area for a long, long time, and they were really, really rare, and it was in the newspaper and stuff.
Oh, you're in the newspaper?
Yeah.
And you submit the record to the county recorder?
I think the entomologist guy did, yeah.
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah.
So do you want to be an entomologist when you grow up?
I'm trying to keep my options open, but like being an entomologist would be really good, but I also just like animals in general, so anything to do with zoology.
Cool, can't go wrong. So here at Insect Festival, seen any interesting stuff around?
I've only just got here, so I've not really had a chance. You're the first guys I've spoken to.
Oh, brilliant. We're obviously the most attractive stand. So you're quite interested in insects?
Yeah.
Have you got any particular favourite insects or favourite groups?
Fossil insects. I'm particularly interested in fossil insects.
Yeah. So what is it about fossil insects that interests you?
Many things. So they can tell us a great deal of range of things, such as how their distribution has changed over time, for example. How they coexisted, shall we say, with the dinosaurs and basically survived the extinctions that have eliminated the dinosaurs, yet the insects have pretty much continued largely unaffected. And they're just fabulous to look at. I mean, if you ever look at a fossil in amber, the sheer beauty of the delicate wings and preserved, and they can be 50 million years old, they can be 100 million years old. Remarkable.
Yeah.
So and you get them preserved in rock as well. When people think of fossils, they think of dinosaurs, they think of bones, they think of shelly animals. They don't think of insects. Yet there are probably 22,500 fossil insect species described. Compare that with 1,500 dinosaurs. It's a massive difference, but dinosaurs get all the
glory.
The glory.
Yeah. So what's been the favourite thing that you've seen here at the Insect Festival today?
Pictures of bugs.
The pictures. Was there any in particular that were your favourite, or were they all really good?
Oh, really good.
Yeah. And do you have a favourite insect?
Yeah.
What is it?
A tick.
A tick? Wow. I wasn't expecting that. So what is it that you like about ticks?
That they're creepy.
That they're creepy. That's a pretty good reason. Have you ever seen a tick?
I've seen it on my poster, my Pest poster.
Really? You haven't had one on you then? I've had one on me. It wasn't very nice.
I've seen a hedgehog with ticks.
Oh yeah, they have lots of ticks, don't they? Where did you see that?
Outside my school, it was a baby hedgehog.
Oh right, wow. Was that in the daytime?
Yeah.
Wow, you don't usually see hedgehogs in the daytime, do you? Oh, cool.
No.
So you like insects?
Yeah.
Great. So have you got a favourite insect or a favourite group of insects?
Bees.
Bees. Ooh, why do you like bees?
Because they can sting you, and I like stinging.
They can sting you.
That is true. That's not normally people's favourite thing, though.
Well, most of the time they don't sting you because they're actually pretty friendly.
The only way bees sting you if you annoy
Yeah, if you hurt them or if you mess around with the colony.
Yeah. Or like a whoosh. That could do more damage.
Yeah, wasps can definitely sting you. I can account to that.
I've been just stung by a wasp before.
Oh. Did you hurt it or annoy it?
No, I was just like walking. I was standing on a bench and I put my hand on it, and then it just stung me.
It was probably scared. They're only small, aren't they?
They're only about that size.
Yeah, and you're this size, so it's a big difference.
So, what do you want to do when you're older? Do you want to maybe be an entomologist? Study insects?
No, I basically just want to be in the army.
In the army?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, what's the most interesting thing you've seen today here at the Insect Festival?
That's quite hard. It's got a lot of things.
Well, you're allowed to say that Entocast.
Shameless.
Talking to people and learning a lot about the sort of courses that are available have been really useful. But in terms of what's been really interesting, I think over there outside there's some things about these tansy beetles, which was really interesting. So that was really good.
And what was interesting about that? What really caught your attention about it?
I was just amazed how I've never heard of them before, but they're a really endangered species and they only live in 2 places and they only feed on one type of plant. So just the tansy plant, which makes sense, the tansy beetles, which grows along the river that's near. What's the name of the river? The River Ouse, which is near here and somewhere in Cambridge as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how some animals we all know about, like pandas, they get a lot of attention, where actually we have some really endangered, very, very charismatic insects here in the UK that seem to get, So, do you have a favourite group of insects or a favourite insect?
Favourite insects are ants.
Ants?
Yeah, I've been interested in them since I was really little.
Yeah? So what is it about ants that you find so interesting?
I like how they all work together, and that's why I like bees and wasps as well. But especially ants, because you can see them all working together on the ground, and the way they use pheromones to communicate, and you can watch them dragging things away to their nest and stuff like that. It's really interesting to watch.
So, do you have any interesting insect stories? Maybe something you've seen or some crazy insect facts that you've heard?
Well, I did some research on using ants in agriculture as pest control. And as an alternative to fertilisers in the soil as well. So that was really interesting.
So what did you find in your research?
What I found out was that, especially in hot, dry climates, ants can be really, really good at controlling pests. But some species can be really detrimental and some can be really beneficial. Because some of them are really territorial and they will just kill all the pests in the area, which is perfect. But some of them will do things like farming aphids for the honeydew, which then encourages the pests to feed on the plants and protects them, which is exactly what you don't want. So you have to be careful with what you do.
Brilliant. So is ant research what you want to do in the future?
Potentially, yeah. If I can get into that area, then I'd really like to do that, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for talking to us today. Well, we could just start off by telling us who you are and what you've been exhibiting here today.
So we're Eat Bugs. We're a new outreach group, concentrate on edible insects, and we're all PhD students at the University of York currently.
Yeah, we're just trying to tell people about all the various benefits of eating insects, nutritional and also just the sustainability side of things.
That sounds really interesting. So why should we be eating insects?
There's great environmental benefits. They're much more efficient at producing meat from water and food than cattle or
other livestock,
other
really,
livestock,
yeah.
They're very healthy, they're very high protein, kind of low fats, they've got high nutritional content, so health benefits, environmental benefits, and also animal welfare benefits. It's easier to keep a cricket happy than it is to keep a cow happy.
Yeah, a bit different.
So how did the day go?
Oh, it's been fantastic. We've had so much attention from kids and adults, and so many people willing to try stuff, right from sort of the flapjacks where you can barely taste anything, and people have been really brave, going for the sort of just unseasoned, straight up cricket. So it's been great. Yeah, really good.
We've had people turn up and they've looked at the plain insects without seasoning, and they've been like, oh, I'll never eat that. And then after trying the flapjacks and then the caramelised crickets and then the seasoned ones, they've worked their way up and eventually they've just had the plain insects. So
they've almost just been desensitised.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
it's exactly what we wanted. It's all about education, like showing people that they're not as gross as they look, basically.
Yeah, it's really funny the number of people who've kind of been just like, insects, and then like they have them and they're like, oh, they're fine. And you're like, it's just.
And our famous Bombay mix.
That was very nice. I like the Bombay mix.
I can say the same.
How do you think today's gone, and what are you doing here today at the Insect Festival?
This is my third visit, I think, to the Insect Festival. But might be the fourth one. But I'm here with the Riverfly Partnership circus, in a way. All the lovely insects that live in lovely clean rivers, and we've been able to give people a chance to see what they should have in their local watercourse if it's in perfect or near perfect condition, and to be able to explain what comes, what goes, and how pollutants affect things, how the life cycles are affected, and all the aspects obviously to do with freshwater ecology. That's what we're here for today, and it's been a fantastic day, and it always is.
There are a lot of people interested.
Lots of people interested. I've been inundated by people, which is exactly what I need and what I want. Lots of questions, lots of interest, lots of amazement, lots of wows when they look down at microscope. All them things all make the day really special, and it is a wonderful place, this. Yeah, just seeing those and seeing them close up and seeing what they can actually do, and then relating that to the greater, so to not just ecology but also history of the planet. You know, these things have been around so long, and they've adapted to every change that the planet's ever thrown at them, you know, so whether they'll adapt to the changes that mankind throws at them is yet to be seen. But I think if I were a betting man, I think my money would be on the insects.
Brilliant. And finally, we're just wondering, obviously you quite like your aquatic insects. Do you have a favourite?
Yes, I do. I do have a favourite. My favourite aquatic insects are caddisflies, simply because they are so fascinating. So yeah, everybody's got to have a favourite, I think, and mine actually is caddisflies, simply because there's lots of varieties, and there is still lots to learn that we just simply do not know. So there's new science to be looked at by everybody, whether you're a professional scientist or just like me, an amateur entomologist. But there's enough study there for a full lifetime on any aspect of caddisflies, as there is with lots of groups of insects. So lots of things for people to do.
So we were just wondering how today has gone and what it is you're here doing today.
Today has been absolutely fantastic. Literally not stopped talking, as you can probably tell from my voice now. Representing Bug Life and Urban Buzz, our project that we've been running in York for the last 18-21 months, focused on habitat for pollinators, raising awareness of the diversity, the beauty, the importance of pollinators, and showing what people can do to help them, and also contribute to bringing colour into an urban environment.
So what was the biggest question you got today? What will people keep asking you?
The biggest question? Varied from person to person. You kind of expect a certain stereotype question, but it didn't seem to come today. Pointing and saying, what's that? At the pollinator collection, pinned collection. Bee flies, for example, comparing the similarities and differences to bees. How can I help? What can I plant in my garden? Which is always a good question. It's great to see positive people out there trying to make a difference. How and why are you interested in insects? And how can I get my child interested in insects? So wide ranging, really.
So I know it can be quite difficult, but if you could sum up the value of events like this?
Yeah, it's true. You can't really tally it up, can you? Because it's something that embeds in your psyche, I suppose, in your
mind.
On a
personal level as well.
Yeah. For me and for you, no doubt, we've always been interested in insects and continue to be. But when you see the faces, the smiles, the shock sometimes on the stats or the diversity or how they can help, and you know that penny's just dropped and they think they've been empowered, they know that they can go away and make a difference at whatever scale, I think that's the value that it really adds.
And for a final question, do you have a favourite insect?
I think possibly the bee fly, dark-edged bee fly. But the more I learn, the more I see, the more I experience, the more I observe. For me, it's the joined up, the holistic environmental landscape approach, and how things join together and how they influence each other. So, and sharing that with other people.
So, who are you here today with, and what was the message you were trying to get across to the general public?
Well, I'm Stuart Ogilvie. I'm Assistant Curator of Natural Sciences here at the Yorkshire Museum. This fine medieval building within it is the Hospitium, and every 2 years, it's biannual event, we have the insect fair. So I brought some material down from the collections from the main stores, because like most museums, less than 1% of what we have is ever on display. So it's a case of being able to show the public what we have in the collections. And on top of that, we've been doing a bit of demystifying, a bit of myth busting. So everybody thinks that moths are small brown insects that fly around at night and are really irritating. Well, that's not actually the case at all, because a lot of moths are every bit as brightly marked and beautiful as butterflies, and similarly they have a much more interesting lifestyle, because you get a faunal change down the year. You get winter moths, you get early spring moths, you get summer moths, and you get autumn moths. So the fauna is changing all the time. If you put a light out, you will get moths, and they're fantastic things. We've had some flies in from the collection, because most people don't understand why we have flies. We've got leaf miners here in the gardens. We've got nearly 35 species in the gardens now, and the caterpillar is so small it lives between the upper surface and the bottom surface of the leaf, and produces a very distinctive mine which will allow you to, in some circumstances, to simply identify what type of fly or moth it is. And lastly but not least, and this is an important point, because we have legislation now which prevents a lot of people from collecting, it's really only researchers who are allowed to collect nowadays. We have lost so much habitat. Something like 97% of our flower species rich meadowland has disappeared in the last 50 or 60 years. Nearly 70% of our woodland has disappeared since 1900. In the collections we have material from all sorts of sites that are no longer extant. You cannot get to them. They've either been built over, or the habitat itself has been dried out. The dried out ponds. We've lost 40% of our ponds in the last 20 years. And we have that material, and researchers can come and use the collections. And at the end of the day, it's about making the collections available for people to use.
So overall, it was a successful day. Engaged a lot of people.
It's been pretty steady all day long. Yeah, we've had an absolutely fantastic day. The feedback has been really, really good. We've had everything from small children, people who knew nothing whatsoever about insects, through to serious academics who took a look at some of the collection and went, crikey, I really want to work with that. Any chance I can set up an appointment? So we've had the full works. The sun has shone. People have had a good time. It doesn't really get any better than this.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And finally, just wondering if you maybe had a favourite insect. I know it's a tough question.
I have a soft spot for dragonflies, because of what they are. But here in York we have something called the tansy beetle. And the only place you can find tansy beetle is along a 30-kilometre stretch of the Ouse. It is unique to York. They've been reintroduced elsewhere. They've been reintroduced to Wickham Fen, and there's one other small population which we think might be a possible reintroduction. We're not absolutely certain about that. But the great thing about the tansy beetle is it's bright green and it's shiny, and it sits on top of tansy, so you can't miss it. And if you're going to have a beetle all of your own, you might as well have a nice one.
Oh wow, that was such a fun event. I really enjoyed talking to a real variety of people there.
Yeah, it was tiring, but it was a lot of fun. I particularly like some of the kids coming up, like the girl who came up and said, oh, what was it? That she really liked ticks because they're creepy. I just love that. And I think that's such a great thing to hear from kids, because a lot of adults don't like insects because they're quote-unquote creepy. But the fact she does like them for that exact same reason, I think that was really cool.
Yeah, things like that really warm my heart, and they give me hope for the future. And I think, a lot of kids do really connect with nature in this really great way, and it's a shame when they lose that. So I think there's a real role for outreach to take that and nurture it and help them to develop it into potentially a career.
Yeah, definitely. And I think while the Insect Festival is somewhat of a self-selecting group, like you go to an insect festival normally because you're interested in insects, there were a lot of people just walking past and coming in and seeing stuff, and there were a lot of people who were saying things like their minds were quote unquote blown by like various different aspects. So and it was really cool. Do you remember the two kids who came to us to talk about how they'd just eaten some insects as well, and they were really excited by that? I thought that was incredible as well, because that's also talking about the future role possibly of insects, and just getting people involved in things they didn't even know that insects could be part of.
Yeah, and something else I kind of coming to see as well is outreach is not just this thing where the scientists are taking their science to the public and the public are benefiting from that. I actually really strongly believe it's a two-way street, and you don't know as a researcher going out there what you will actually get back from that. And you see all the time, like you start going and talk to people, and then suddenly they'll start talking about something you didn't expect, and then that leads on to something else. So I think as a research community, we can get a lot out of outreach ourselves.
No, definitely. I think sometimes those almost, I don't want to say naive, but you know what I mean, those sort of questions that the public ask, sometimes it don't occur to scientists because we're so deep in the actual mire of research that sometimes someone just go, oh, but why does this insect do this? Can just spark something that can then be this incredible research initiative.
And then there's the other angle, of course, which we saw in last month, which is citizen science, which is in itself a kind of form of outreach where we take our research and actually give it to the public to join in. And when the public do join in, they take ownership of that project. And you have a huge potential resource there of people across the country enthusiastically helping and adding to the research, which I think can only be a good thing.
And I think with the rise of technology for the masses, it means that the public can be really part of research and they can contribute to this big data pool that we as scientists can do, because sometimes there are really great ideas that we would really like to do, for example trying to sample all the wasps across the country, but we just can't do just because we can't have the labour. So getting people involved with that really helps that two-way street, like you were saying. So they're helping us and they're also getting something out of it, they're increasing their knowledge and also just becoming, well, I am very biased, but I just feel like having extra knowledge, getting engaged with these things is just somewhat fulfilling as a human being, but I'm clearly very biased. So I hope you enjoyed that rather different episode of Entercast, but I think that's all we've got time for this week. So we just wanted to thank our sponsor, the Royal Entomological Society, again, and thank you all for listening.
And yeah, I'm really excited by this whole outreach, public engagement angle, and I look forward to seeing what outreach events our listeners get involved with in the future.
Definitely. And if you want to get in touch with us, we are entercast@gmail.com or on Twitter @entercast. You can also reach us through our website, which is entercast.com. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
I could play some music, like the Entercast theme tune in the background.
Are you actually recording now?
Yeah, no, it's recording now.
Is that going to be a massive file? Why don't we just start recording when there's actually someone there?
Yeah, that's probably a much better idea. I don't know, I just thought we'd just record the whole thing. But then...
I know, most of what I say is gold, but I'm just worried about the size of the file.
Yeah, no, actually that would be very huge.
I mean, if file size weren't an issue, then you could legitimately have someone just follow me around, just recording me 24/7, and it would just be fantastic.
Okay, yeah, I'll stop recording.